think what an inspiring group of people that we have today. So we'll finish with our last inspiring group, looking today at, no pressure, sorry, at service frontline employee care. So thank you.
Hello, I'm just going to take this out. I'm quite a mover kind of a presenter. Thank you for this opportunity. What I'm going to present today is this working? What I'm going to present today is basically a recent project that we completed for the Tasmanian government. Now, yes. Oh, okay, sure. So what I'm going to present today is a recent project that we completed for the Tasmanian government. From one end of the world to the other end, and literally the backyard of Australia in Tasmania. So up until until December, I used to work for University of Tasmania. I've just moved to University of Western Australia. Now, so this particular project was not something that there was a theory gap, let's do it. No, it was completely inspired by the industry. The industry came to us, and it is a project about care economy. The pressing issues of workforce retention and workforce recruitment in this space. We are all aware of that. There are royal commissions around it. It's not just a Tasmanian level problem. It is an Australian problem and also a global problem. So when I'm talking today, and it's essentially the work that has completed stage 1. And when we started talking to our industry partner back in 2022, the state of affairs was this. The state government gave X billion dollars to the care economy in the state and said, go ahead, form a coalition, find researchers at different universities, and do whatever you can, along with some, advertising recruitment specialist partners, and do whatever you can with this money, just to improve the workforce retention. Our project was a part of it. Essentially, they were looking at improving the sector brand perception, in terms of improving the perceptions of working in the care economy sectors, namely the aged care, the disability, the community and social welfare programs, and also early childhood. They formed a party called Workforce Coalition Party. The government gave them special money. They kept receiving funding around this, so which was all great. But when we started this project, we took quite a bit of time in understanding what exactly is the problem. So there was a lot of different challenges here. They wanted to improve their brand perception, and they had paid about $50,000 to $100,000 to an ad agency to do a storytelling, work for them. But then we decided to look at from a bottom-up perspective. That is, let's talk directly to the care workers. What really resonates for them? Who are these workers? What does work mean to them? And what really they bring to work, basically. So we took a more humanistic approach in here. I'm not going to bore you with stats because there is more juicy stuff out there in terms of what we ended up developing. But just to give you an overall understanding, by the way, you can have access to our report online. It's available at a couple of places. So just to give you an overall idea, so what is expected, 16% of who are employed in a regional state like Tasmania, they work in this sector. 16% is way too much. They're expecting 30%. With the aging population, the requirement for workforce within these sectors is ever increasing. I am not even going to, as I said, there is Royal Commission. There are a lot of work that is being done across a lot of different research partners and universities in just basically improvement of workforce in this area. Okay. the reason we took a bottom-up approach was talking to these individuals and workers in this space, just to understand this perspective, because we thought, let's, instead of figuring out what are their perceptions, let's start figuring out what are the values and the motivations and the attitudes towards that work. But as we progress through, we found out that there is lots happening in terms of understanding what really care is. Yeah, there are a lot of multiple definitions. We, as typical academics and researchers, we looked into the space and literature, and we found care is a lot of things to a lot of people. So a care could be all the mothers that are offering care to their children. Care could be really awareness of, following the identification needs and taking responsibility to meet those needs. A caregiving is action of care, observing and assessing the effectiveness of care, that there may be benevolence. Caring with care is identified, and giving should be consistent with commitments to justice and equality. So there's a lot of definitions out there of what care is, but there are equally number of different theoretical paradigms, not specifically in marketing or the services marketing area where we work in, but in sociology, in psychology, in the areas of health safety, a lot of, and nursing specifically. So they've looked at a lot of different paradigms of care. I won't cover all of that, but the most interesting ones to me are the devaluation perspective. Carers as a society, care work as a society is completely devalued, and it's taken very for granted. It's also classically considered as a women's role to care, and we are all aware of that. Then there is prisoners of love framework that focuses on the genuine care that motivates some care workers, pointing out the cruel irony that there are intrinsic motives of a carer, that they're just going to take care. It's just expected. And they can't get out of that literally motivation because they're so internally motivated by that. So in other parts of the literature, the reason we thought this was, let's take a midstream or a meso level approach. We are system thinkers, and that's what we do. So meso level approach is because of the type of organizations we were partnering. These are all peak bodies in the state whose job is to care for, develop and support the conditions of care workers in the state. That was one. But the second and the most profound one that was inspired from the literature was around the lack of internal marketing orientation in these service systems. Complete lack of internal marketing orientations. So that's what, so these are some insights from the literature. There is some work that looks into meso-level approaches and are considered valuable to mobilize the transformative value of social exchange. I think Cheryl's and Nadia's work talk to it. Then there is FLE service care roles that are often seen as complex, and as I go through my data and talk to you about it, you'll see a lot of interesting nuances come out, just demonstrating that complexity. The challenging work conditions such as consumer aggression, poor wage, high risk of OSH risk, poor emotional and physical safety, not to undermine the issue of emotional labor in this kind of care work. So there is work in this area. So as I said, the bottom-up approach, but taking it also for understanding also the layers of system, helped us to create a theoretical vantage, but also to understand a lived experience approach as well. We looked into two research questions, and that's what we theorized. How do frontline employees in care-related services see care? This was the foundation, because there were so many different definitions, but no definition gave us an answer as in what exactly care means in the care work-related context. So that's what was one. And what are the key service care archetypes of FLEs? Now, developing archetypes is a great tool. This is an ongoing project. and we are at that stage that we have just completed the first form of framework as an outcome of the first stage that has been delivered to the industry. But I think this particular one allows us to sort of see what is the broad, segregation or the personas, if you may, of the care workers is in the sector, because then we are able to map out a whole gamut of variables around their psychographics, their pain points, and their challenges and stuff like that. We use the role identity and meaningful work framework. Now, role identity specifically just talks about the idea that as we are doing our work in, everyday work, we need to identify with it. And once we identify with, we tend to add more meaning, and it adds because work, as you know, it's so much part of our human life. So roles are tied to individual sense of self and identity, and meaningful identity aligns with meaningful role performances. Meaningfulness is subjective experience of life's existential significance or purpose. So we went by that. There is a meaningful work theory that we applied here, and as we analyzed the data. So in terms of methodology, it was easy and difficult both, if I say, because easy because we already had organizations on board who would give us access to it. We had the support of organizations in terms of funding. The difficult part was getting them to agree and buy-ins on doing certain ways in a way. Yeah, the difficult part was getting ethical approvals, agreement on intellectual property and stuff like that. So there were challenges when you're navigating multiple stakeholders as well. So this was, I think, quite a steep learning curve in stakeholder management for us, especially as mid-career researchers, on how we need to do this. So methodology, we went through the gatekeeping organizations. We decided to go for 40 interviews across all the 4 sectors of care economy, which means you're looking at 10 interviews as representative samples across each sector. We had each interviews about 40 to 50 minutes, about 2050 minutes of rich data, and 1500 approximately pages of data that we were looking into. So we followed the standard procedures of hybrid thematic analysis and development of exhaustive archetype categories. This is a breakdown. It was a challenge to get, even with all the right place factors in there, it was a challenge to get these people to come on board to talk to us, simply because of trust, time, availability, whole lot of things. So this is the breakdown. We went through this broad analysis approach where we started with interpretation of the word care in their work. We went by that. Then we identified the motivations of service work. Then we looked into meaning that they put when they were thinking or manifesting their work in itself, in their sectors. And then we tried to figure out barriers of performing service care work as well. Now, the first thing first, and the first research question, the assumption was that care was generally, care was caring practice, or whatever it was from a theory perspective. And also when we spoke to randomly people and the assumptions of these peak organizations of what do you really think the people you represent and your community think about their work and what really care means. And even the CEOs had no idea what it really means if we had to nail it down and define that. So this gave them an answer, and they were surprised. So care was seen in 3 distinct ways by these people. Somebody spoke care in form of they being the nurturer of their clients and they being responsible. Somebody saw that care is basically not nurturing. That's not my job. I am the defender of my client, and it's my role to defend them. And then somebody said that care is empowering. Care means showing someone empathy, but also being able to care for people and support them when they need it. And as I unravel more and more insights, you'll know what it really means. So basically, we had people who saying that I'm just not so caring is so loosely used, but caring has conceptual scientific elements in there on how they see the care work itself. So, data indicates that service care work entails more than touchy feely things. It's rooted in strong personal value of respect, fairness, and focus on meaningful difference to the lives of their client. Service care reflects FLE's awareness their client their needs are diverse and holistic, and the challenges they face to support their well-being. Frontline workers self respect and adhere to certain care beliefs and inherent in their their service care delivery. So, we spoke to people who were very clear about what their care work ethics were and how they were upholding those ethics. There were people who thought that if my client who is disabled may not require me to do everything, or is aged, who may not require me to do everything, but my role is to support them when they ask for, not just do things assuming that they are incapable of doing it, because that means I am undermining their existence, and that's not who I am. So people were very, very clear in their roles as well. This is just a broad definition that we have developed of a care worker, but I'll go to the more interesting aspect. So then we took this and then started developing the care archetype. And this is a framework that the industry was interested in because this allowed them to see the tool. So the first one is idealist, then is a system warrior, bridge, creator, and a philomath. I'll quickly go through their definitions as well, but I'll tell you the backstory why an idealist is called an idealist. Idealist basically is a person who has very high work ethics. Okay, they will not compromise, they will not let go, they will not even tolerate other people who are actually trying to compromise on the caring as such. So that is a reason we thought that idealist is like a diamond and very strong yet clear about what they want. Then we had system warrior, and the system warriors were interesting. They called themselves as change agent. They are the ones who were thinking about system, who were actually wanting to do something with the system that was not working at their work. And they spoke about it quite, evidently in the data that I want to do this. And, my manager might not allow me to or might not like me, but I still want to do this. So they were those. So they had that fire element in there. There was a bridge there were people who thought that their job was to bring people together. These were capacity builders. And these capacity builder people were interested in being in managerial roles and wanting to, connect to people and build other people's capacity. Then there was philomath. This particular one was very, very evident in the early childhood sector. And these philomaths were people who were interested in growing themselves. And they say that when I have grown and I have self-reflected on my growth and learning, I'll be able to do proper care work as such. And then there were creators who wanted to be very, very innovative. So as I said, I am mindful of the time and it's exhaustive, and obviously everything is out there in the report. But here are few sub-themes, as you can see, of how system warriors wanted choices, creating equitable service systems, working towards disrupting service governance. We also found out pain points here, perception of what they thought that their challenges of work were, because these challenges were essentially the barriers why they were leaving their work or not happy in their work and actually getting a bad repertoire for the sector itself. So these were the pain points that we provided the insights as well. Idealist had the themes of integrity in service delivery, low tolerance for subpar service designs. And their pain points was they hated working with the system and they hated the toxic work culture as well. Philomath, as I said, disposes of identifying developmental opportunities to client. Continuous quality improvement is their thing. Their challenge is that their roles that they are doing are not stimulating enough or offering them opportunities to grow. That were their challenges. They hated undertaking mindless tasks. Creators are actively creates new practices and programs and wants to contribute by doing that. Their challenges were limited time and resources to engage in the creative process itself. And Bridge, as I said, were capacity builders, and their challenge was to, emotional labor was a very, very big challenge for them. Now, this is what we offered as a part of this framework to the industry. 4 key applications: care work, team mapping and building, that could be achieved because we did a lot, we last few months we did a lot of managerial sessions around giving them this archetype and getting their insights into it. And then for recruitment, retention and care work design, sector brand, we actually promoted so we are actually promoting what is next. The biggest point here to next is digitalizing these archetypes so that this tool could be used for, by a lot of different service providers or even the peak bodies to allow the service providers in understanding team profiles or understanding what exactly their team is or where they are. So, we've developed a lot of interesting insights into that space as well. We also gave them an extensive insights into how they can do sector branding and how to develop recruitment and advertising strategy across all the 5 archetypes for their services. And these were the ideas that were given to them in terms of communication appeal. Where to next? As I said, this project is just ongoing. We are trying to get industry partners to collaborate with us to literally convert all these archetypes that we have developed into more digital formats. And when I say digital formats, it's literally developing, making it more data-driven activity. Because once it's data-driven, any service provider who's interested is basically going to have a tool that will allow the team mapping and also help the managers to recruit better and manage the career trajectory.